One, two, one, two. Here we are. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Motive Racing YouTube channel. We are back here tonight for the Formula One League. This is round 6 of this 16-round season here for Season 6 on the EA Sports F1 game, F1 23. We have got what appears to be heavy rain here in the Styrian Mountains. For those of you who don't know, the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg in Austria is actually based in the middle of the Alps. As you can probably guess, actually looking at the landscape. But yeah, heavy rain here this evening in terms of where we are actually in real life. But obviously in terms of the game, it's afternoon. And yeah, it should be an exciting race. We've got 18 drivers on the grid for this one. I'm not quite sure if we're going to be getting off the line straight away or if we're going to have a formation lap. Last week, I was a little bit blindsided by jumping straight into the race. I think we are going straight into the race, so here we go. And it is lights out and away we go. We're underway for the race itself. And down towards turn 1 we go for the first time. Tezama's got a better start than Senna and takes the lead as they're side by side, and he just squeezes him out onto the edge of the track a little bit. Senna goes ever so wide and is trying to hold alongside of him here. You've got Matty Pitt who's moved ahead of Crazy Max. Toaster also straight, but Tezamaza leads on the outside. Senna's going for a dive bomb there down the inside. In the background, there's a Haas going wide as it looks as though Senna's made the move there on Tezamaza. Got himself back up into the lead, but you saw the Ferrari there, Papa Sconch behind them. What has happened behind them? There's been absolute chaos there in the background. It was either the Haas of the Little Greavy or the Grieve that was wide onto the rumble strip on the exit of the corner, but 19 drivers in the race. We're down to 18 because Andrew Pittsmith has retired, so unfortunately we've lost a driver already here in the early stage of this race. But it's Senna leading from Tezamaza with Papa Sconch in third, ahead of Cameron. Then you've got Matty Pitt completing the top 5, followed by Toaster, Little Greavy, T ahead of the Nuts, and Dino completing the top 10. And you've got the Grieve ahead of Dr. Van Midden, followed by Crazy Max, V10 Ultra, Chris in 15th place, and you've got Shadow F1 making his debut tonight. Welcome to you, Shadow. Eggman in 17th place, ahead of Freddie in 18th, and Andrew Pittsmith, the only retirement of the race so far, but safety car already deployed here on lap 1. Senna and Tezamaza, we saw having a great battle up the hill, and the Nuts retired from the race. What has happened here? So the Nuts out of the race, which is bizarre because obviously we're on a safety car, so did he crash into the wall? It said he retired, so it looks like he probably threw in the towel himself, which is quite strange. But one interesting point to make is that Cameron is the only driver on the intermediate tyres. Everybody else has put the wets on, but Cameron's gone for the inters. So is that going to work? We can see a few drivers coming in at the end of the first lap. Are they thinking maybe the track's not wet enough for the wet tyres and putting the inters on, like Cameron obviously started on? We've got Tobster there off and away. Dr. Van Midden into the box. He's doing what appears to be a penalty already. Wow. What tyres are going on? Oh, there's been a few front wings going off, so that's why some of the drivers are coming in to get damage repaired. So plenty of damage occurring. Coming into turn 2, we saw that big melee occurring there. So the only driver actually to change tyres onto the inters is Tobster. Everybody else has opted for a new set of wets. Obviously, 1 lap fresher, you might as well. Well, it's only 1 lap, saying that. Only done half a lap of racing, and it's a very short lap here. So it's not really going to get you too much reprieve coming in for a fresh set of tyres after a lap in the rain here in Spielberg. But nonetheless, we've got Senna leading ahead of Tezamaza. We saw Tezza obviously get the jump on him off the line, take the lead into turn 1. Senna then dive bombed him into turn 2 and got the move done straight back off of him. And then after that, the safety car came out, so we only really got 2 corners of racing before we were under full sort of like controlled conditions, if you like. But here we are then, sprint race. Obviously this is not the Grand Prix. The Grand Prix itself will be coming up after this. Like conditions very tricky here for the drivers. Is it going to be the same for the Grand Prix? I'm not sure. They will probably know, but I myself don't actually have any comms with the drivers, so I don't actually know what the situation is or whether we're going to be expecting these conditions to persist into the actual Grand Prix itself. But yeah, it should be exciting to see. But nonetheless, we're coming out of the final corner here, and got one more lap at least under the safety car by the looks of it. It looks like we're all caught up near enough. Eggman's just closing up onto the back of the pack now. V10 Ultra and Eggman are the stragglers here, so once they're on the back of the train, we'll be set to go. And then obviously we've got one more lap under the safety car to go, which is a shame really, because they caught up just as we were about to start this lap. If it was maybe a few corners back, we could have sent the safety car in this lap, but oh well, I guess it is what it is. So yeah, we're going to have 9 racing laps here once the safety car peels in. Still plenty of racing to be had, and it looks like we're going to have an exciting battle at the front. Senna and Tezamaza, we saw them going toe to toe in the opening few corners of this race. Are they going to be able to keep that up over the course of the next 9 laps here? Great to see so many cars on the grid. Obviously we've lost 2, but we've still got 17 drivers on the track, and that's, you know, that's a proper F1 league, that is. Obviously we've been crying out for this sort of thing for a long time now, and it's good to see that we've really got a good turnout here. It should mean that we're not sort of strapped for any excitement over the course of it. We should be seeing plenty going on. Safety car sped off up the road, so it's now Senna who's got control of this pack now. When does he go? When does he decide to get this race back underway? Looks like he's just backing them up a little bit, leaving them guessing, just making them think a little bit. When is he going to go? When's he going to put the hammer down? You don't want to jump it, because then if you pass him, then you've technically broken the rules. Obviously Tezamaza's not allowed to pull alongside the lead car. We all know that from that rule was introduced after 2021 Abu Dhabi, where Verstappen pulled alongside Hamilton. But here we go. I think we're underway. We should be anyway. Yep. Up towards turn 1 we go. Senna, Tezamaza, Papasquanch, Cameron, the top 4. You can see Little Greavy putting Matty Pitt under a bit of pressure there. Oh, and there's the contact there. And that was the Alfa Romeo that was sent around there by the Alpine. Chris there punting Tobes around. Those two down to the back of the pack. That's gone an absolute horror show for both of those two. Cameron's got ahead of Papasquanch on his intermediate tyres. All contact there as well. But Papasquanch there moving back ahead of Cameron, getting better traction out of turn 2, and then Papasquanch back up into P3. Shadows out of the race. We've got another safety car here. 2 safety car periods in the space of, well, we've only had about 6 corners of racing, and they've both been in the same part of the track. But wow, another safety car here. Shadow becomes the 3rd driver to depart this particular race, this sprint race here tonight. Tobes there with a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car, and this is turning into a bit of a shit show, if I'm honest with you. Not what we wanted to see at the start of this this event here for this sprint race, as Crazy Max there moving ahead of T up into P7. But yeah, it's a bit of a frustrating situation that we've got on our hands right here, and not what we wanted at all. Certainly not. So, Senna in the pits. Looks as though Crazy Max, V10 Ultra, Dino, Papasquanch, Chris, Toast are all in the pits here. So are they putting intermediates on? Looks like pretty much everybody here is putting intermediates on. Some damage also being repaired. So these guys clearly feel that the track is dry enough now to warrant the intermediate tyres. Cameron was obviously the only driver who started on the inters. Saying that with all the mistakes going on, I wouldn't call it particularly safe out there. Obviously the drivers have, but it's clear from these 3 retirements that the track is pretty slippery, pretty tricky still. But yeah, looks like pretty much half the field now is on intermediate tyres. You've got the 7 drivers from 10th down to 16th on the inters. Also Cameron as well. And obviously if it continues to come down, that will benefit them, but it's only spitting at the moment, and the track's probably drying up quicker than it's actually racking up the water at this point. I would say that they're probably shedding standing water quicker than it's coming down. So at this point I think the track is still drying out. Obviously the raindrops on the camera lens do paint a very different picture, but you've got to also factor in that these F1 cars, they clear the water that's on the racing line very, very quickly. So generally speaking, the power of the cars, the speeds that they're going at, means that the water that's there generally gets sent off up into the atmosphere very quickly. So quite often you find that even if it's spitting with rain, generally the track will be drying out. If they're going around the track will usually dry out at a quicker pace than when it's coming down. But Eggman into the pits, Freddie also into the pits as well. That's two drivers here making the pit stop here at the end of lap 4, as we're continuing around under safety car here. Tesla Mazda ahead of Cameron, but Cameron obviously on the intermediate tyres. Now that the track has really had time to dry out, could this really be Cameron's chance to pounce here, seeing as he probably doesn't have to pit either, and his tyres are obviously not going to be that much more worn out than the guys behind him on Inters. So Senna, Papa Squanch, Dino, Crazy Max, Chris, V10 Ultra, Toaster, Eggman and Freddy. I tell you what, if this track is dry enough for Inters, then Tesla Mazda, Matty Pitt, Little Greavy T, The Grieve, Dr. Van Millen, all of these guys are going to find themselves in huge trouble here. It's going to be extremely difficult for them to cope with a dry track with a load of Inter runners behind them. They're going to have to hope that there's a shower or something, or that this light rain persists in some kind of capacity, because if it eases off or if it stops, then I think they're going to be definitely struggling at the end of this sprint race. But we don't know how long this safety car there we go. Alright, question's been answered. I was about to say, when is the safety car going to come in? It's coming in at the end of this lap, so we are going to be getting underway once again here. It says on the timing screen lap 6 of 12. We're technically at the halfway point in this race, but you wouldn't think it, would you? You wouldn't know it. The way it's been going, but this is currently the situation here. So it's going to be Tezza who'll get us underway, Cameron right on the back of him on those intermediate tyres. Can he make those work? It looks like the track now, there's definitely a dry line appearing, even though they've been going at a snail's pace around the track. There's still definitely a dry line appearing. It doesn't really matter if you're going half the pace. Generally you'll find that in any racing series at any speed there will be a dry line that appears. So let's see what happens here. We're getting underway once again now, through into the final corner once again. Tezza, Cameron, Matty Pitt, Little Greavy, a top 4 here, as Little Greavy's got done for a 3-second time penalty there for putting his wheel on the curb. Very harsh penalty, I've got to say, but the penalties can be quite uncompromising here in Austria. But into turn 1 we go. Cameron's looking down the inside of Tezza. A very speculative move there. That was not going to work in a month of Sundays, but he tucks into the slipstream here, coming up the hill, and Cameron might fancy a chance here into turn 2, as Tezza there he doesn't cover the inside line. He leaves the door wide open, but Cameron's not close enough to send one into turn 2, and for the time being it's still Tezza Mazda holding on from Cameron, but Cameron there looked down the inside into turn 1. That was an unbelievably ambitious move. It was never going to work, as Dino's got ahead of Papa Squanch up into 9th place, so Dino up a position. And they're all jostling. Oh, it's kind of Crazy Max has binned it on the exit of turn 2. He's out of the race. For fuck's sake, we've got another safety car. Are you kidding me? Here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. We are just about to get underway for the... I'm not shitting you here, it's the fourth time that we're going to have gone green light. We went lights out after standing start. We're also about to go for... Well, we've had 2 restarts from the safety car. This is now the 3rd safety car restarts. This is the 4th time we're going to go racing again. We're on lap 9. We've had about 9 corners of racing. Every time we've gone lights out or we've gone green light, we've had 3 corners of racing. We've got out of turn 3 and somebody's crashed or somebody's bent it and brought out a safety car. This is probably one of the most unusual sprint races we've ever seen. But the upshot of it is that the track drying out and Cameron on the intermediate tyres poised right on the back of Tez and Muzzer here. Dino's got ahead of Dr. Van Midden. V10 Ultra's got ahead of Chris. That's because, V10 Ultra actually briefly got ahead of him because he was going into the pits taking a shorter run. But obviously he's in the pit lane now getting some tyre change. But Tez and Muzzer and Cameron very close up the hill. 0.3 of a second between them. You ride on board with Cameron here, getting closer and closer to the back there of the Aston Martin. Has to look to the outside because Tez and Muzzer defends him. Gets the better run out of the corner as Cameron went a little bit deep in the background there. Matty Pitt ever so wide. Little Grieve is going to get a run on him coming down towards turn 3. But Teza Mozzo for the time being holds on to the lead, and after Cameron went for a bit of a late braking move into turn 2, it didn't really work out for him. Matty Pitt down the inside, Little Grieve up into 3rd place. T hits to the head of the Grieve with Dino behind him at the moment. Toast has got ahead of Dr. Van Midden up into 12th place. Dr. Van Midden going backwards on the wet tyres at the moment, dropping about behind a few of the intermediate runners here. As Senna there has got a 5-second penalty for corner cutting and gaining a place, which is not what you're supposed to do at all there, Senna. But Cameron's still right on the back of Tez and Muzzer, but Tez and Muzzer holding his own, holding his ground right now on those wet tyres. Not really losing too much ground, not really struggling that much compared to what you'd think he would be on this drying track where I think the Inters are definitely going to be the tyre to be on at this stage. Dino in the meantime has done the Grieve up into P6. He's the highest runner. Has pitted. Oh, as Dino's crashed into the back there of the hat of the Grieve, and he's got no front wing and he's out of the race. What a shame there. Looks like they're going to recover that under caution, which is, thank goodness, it's too late for a safety car anyway. We're on the penultimate lap of the race. But Cameron all over the back of Tez and Muzzer as he comes up the hill. In the meantime, Papa Squanch has got ahead of the Grieve up into P6, and the Grieve's now going to watch out because Chris is now looking to his outside as well, as Chris trying to make this move here into turn 2. Is he going to be able to get this one done? He does get it done. The Grieve going early on the brakes, knows his wet tyres, haven't got the grip to do so to defend it, and Papa Squanch in the meantime battling with T as they come down the hill towards turn 3. Side by side here, in fact T's lost out to the Chris as well, so Chris up into P6 now. Chris now making gains on his intermediate tyres. Papa Squanch there still running in P5 ahead of him. But Cameron still putting the pressure on Tez and Muzzer as we go into a louder curve. He goes a little bit deep there. Just Cameron can't quite get it turned in time. Eggman in the meantime has got ahead of the Grieve. The Grieve is dropping back positions here as Eggman's now got ahead of T as well. T dropping a place. Now it's down to Senna. So Eggman and Senna up a position each. Papa Squanch has got ahead of the little Grievey there up into P4. There's position changes going on everywhere that you look at the moment. The Grieve's going backwards, T's going backwards, all the wet runners going backwards. But the one wet runner who is not struggling at the moment somehow is this man Tez and Muzzer. He leads the race. Cameron is hassling the back of him though as they come down towards turn 1. This is going to be an unusual place to make a move. Tez and Muzzer's going to try and go for the cutback here, and he might be able to execute it, but Cameron has taken the lead of the race. Here we go. Tez is now in the slipstream, looking to the outside, coming up towards turn 2. They're going to be side by side. It is going to be neck and neck as they come into turn 2. But Cameron with the inside line and the better tyres should be able to hold on to this one. No, he's gone deep. He's gone very deep there out of turn 2, but manages to get the exit nonetheless, and should be able to hold on to this one with the better tyres on this final lap of the race. In the meantime, we've got a caution. Not quite sure what's happened here. Matty Pitt still just ahead of Chris, but in fact Chris has got a much better exit there. Matty Pitt loses 3 places coming out of one corner there. Eggman is setting out position each. Eggman are trying to attack on the back of Chris here as they come down towards turn 3, and Senna's trying to get both of these two right now. Senna trying to sucker Eggman out of turn 3 up towards the middle part of the lap. We go Cameron. And Teza Muzzer battling, and Teza Muzzer's made a mistake, I think, has he? He has made a mistake. He's now going to lose out to Papa Squanch. So Teza Muzzer making a mistake, trying to get back on Cameron. Eggman's got ahead of Senna's going around the outside of Eggman here. What a move from Senna up into P5, although he hasn't managed to complete it. Eggman there, got better traction coming through that section of the track. It's still Eggman in P5. Cameron, though, is going to come out of the final corner here at Spielberg for the sprint race, and it's going to be a race win here in these tricky conditions. We only had 4 racing laps, but Cameron takes the win ahead of Papa Squanch, followed by Teza Muzzer, who gets him on the penalties there. Tesla gets P2 ahead of Chris, followed by Eggman Papa Squanch P5 ahead of Matty Pitt in 6th. YouTube Freddy in 7th ahead of Senna in 8th, followed by Little Greavy who takes P9. The Grieve over to take the final point ahead of T in 11th, followed by Topes at 12th. V10 Ultra and Dr. Manvin are going to battle this one out, but Dr. Manvin made a little mistake there, and no front wing as well, so he's going to drop off of V10 Ultra. V10 Ultra is going to bring it around for P13, and Dr. Van Minnen in 14th place, hobbling around to finish this sprint race. 14 drivers finished the race. We lost Dino, Crazy Max, Shadow the Mutsnut, and Andrew Pittsmith. Guys, what a race. Join us for the Grand Prix. We'll be going live on a new stream in a few moments' time, so yeah, check that out. We'll be back very, very shortly indeed.